She stood in my apartment doorway, shivering, makeup streaked from tears, holding two garbage bags full of clothes like a stray dog begging for shelter. Her first words to me were, "I wouldn't be homeless if you hadn't told your father the truth." It hit me like a slap across the face. Not because she was cold or pathetic or even because she looked like a ghost of the mother who raised me. No, it was the audacity. The way she placed blame squarely on my shoulders, like I had just casually ruined her life over a morning coffee. Let me back up. My name is Avery. I'm 23, living on my own for the first time in a tiny one-bedroom rental outside Philadelphia. I work part-time at a bookstore and go to grad school at night. Until last month, my life was simple, predictable, manageable. That's when my mom got kicked out of our family home and came banging on my door like a hurricane. She told me she needed to stay just for a few nights because Dad had gone nuclear after she accidentally told him about a conversation I'd had with her. The story she gave me? That I had somehow said something that made him turn on her. That it was my loose lips that got her thrown out. At first, I felt horrible. I mean, she's my mom. I cried with her. I let her sleep on my couch. I made her tea and tried to believe her. But something didn't add up. My dad is a stiff, quiet guy. He doesn't scream or throw things. He processes. Slow, careful, almost annoyingly calm. So when she told me he'd snapped, screaming and tossing her things on the lawn, I started to question what really happened. And then there was how she acted while she was here. She never looked me in the eye. She'd say things like, "Well, I hope you're happy. At least you have a warm bed tonight." She never helped with dishes, never said thank you. It wasn't long before she started hinting about moving in permanently. I started texting my dad. Quietly, carefully, just trying to piece things together without making it worse. And what I learned shattered everything I thought I knew about her. She hadn't been kicked out because of anything I said. She'd been cheating on my dad. For 2 years. With his best friend. Let that sink in. The man who came to my high school graduation. The guy who fixed our gutters when I was a kid. Uncle Todd. That Todd. My dad found out when he walked in on them. In our house. In their bedroom. It was like someone took my childhood and lit it on fire. And then came the rage. Because she came to my door, lied to my face, and tried to blame me for the fallout of her affair. I confronted her. Calmly at first. I asked her, "Mom, what exactly did you say to Dad that made him throw you out?" She went pale. Blinked twice. Said, "You don't need to worry about that. You already did enough damage." So I laid it out. Dad told me everything. About Todd. About walking in on you. About the motel receipts. I know you've been lying. And that's when the mask cracked. She threw the tea mug at the wall. Screamed like a banshee. Called me a traitor. Said I was choosing a man who never understood her over the woman who gave me life. But here's where it gets more twisted. She said, it wasn't even a real affair. I was just lonely. And Todd was there for me. Like that somehow made it okay. I told her she had to leave. That night. She refused. Sat down on my couch and said, "Then call the cops on your mother." I almost did. I had my phone in my hand. My finger hovering over the dial. And then I thought, what if she spins this around again? What if she tells everyone I threw her out on the street? So instead, I called my dad. Put him on speaker. Let her hear him say, "Avery, I'll pay for a hotel. Do not let her manipulate you." And that's when she finally stood up, grabbed her bags, and said, "You're just like him." But here's the real kicker. A few days later, I got a call from my grandmom's mom. She said, "Sweetie, I heard your mother's staying with you. Thank you for taking her in after everything that monster did to her." My jaw hit the floor. Turns out my mom had been spreading lies to the entire family, saying Dad had kicked her out after he cheated, that she'd caught him with a neighbor, that he got violent, that I was the only one who had her back. I couldn't believe it. I felt sick. I told Grandma the truth. Carefully, but she didn't want to hear it. Said, "Your mother would never cheat. She's always been loyal." I realized then Mom had been rewriting the narrative for everyone, making herself the victim, painting Dad and me as villains. And I was furious, not just for myself, but for my dad, for the man who had quietly picked up the pieces of his life and didn't try to make anyone choose sides. I decided to set the record straight. I wrote an email to the entire family. I included dates, receipts. I even attached a screenshot of a message Mom had accidentally sent me instead of Todd, saying, "Can't wait to sneak out again tonight." Same hotel. I expected backlash, but what I got was silence. For days. Then my uncle, the only one who ever treated me like a sibling, replied. One sentence. I always knew something was off with her. And then the messages trickled in. Some apologizing. Some pretending they never believed her anyway. And Mom. She blocked me. No goodbye. No apology. Just vanished. But here's the thing. I don't regret it. Not a single word. Because for once in my life, I stopped letting her rewrite the story. And I told my truth. The silence after I sent that email should have been peaceful. Should have felt like vindication. But it wasn't. It was suffocating. Every buzz from my phone sent a jolt through me. Like I was waiting for Simeone unleash on me for exposing the truth. But no one did. Instead, it was like a family-wide fog settled in. Everyone was pretending the storm never hit. Nobody mentioned Mom. Nobody mentioned the affair. Nobody even acknowledged that the woman who had practically orchestrated our Christmas dinners for 20 years had suddenly gone radio silent. Except one person. My cousin Mariah. She messaged me a week after the email. Just one sentence at first. Can I call you? I hesitated. Mariah was Mom's favorite niece. They were tight like bridesmaid in each other's weddings tight. I expected a guilt trip. A manipulation tactic. A plea for understanding. But when I picked up the phone, she sounded like she'd been crying. I had no idea, she whispered. She told me your dad hit her. She said she had bruises. My stomach flipped. She showed me a picture. Avery, Mariah said, her voice shaking. A bruise on her arm. Said it was from when he shoved her into a wall. I believed her. I was speechless. I sat on my kitchen floor, phone pressed to my ear, staring at the cabinets like they might explain what the hell was happening. She said you were protecting him, Mariah added. That you'd been brainwashed. That you refused to see how dangerous he was. And then she said something that made my skin crawl. She told me if anything happened to her, it would be your fault. I felt cold from the inside out. She'd weaponized me, used my name, my loyalty, my silence, and turned it into a threat. Mariah, I said slowly, I don't know what picture she showed you, but Dad never laid a finger on her. Ever. He wouldn't even raise his voice. I believe you now, she said. I'm sorry. I feel like I helped her keep lying. Like I made it worse. I didn't know what to say. I didn't blame her. Mom had a way of pulling people in, making them feel like rescuing her was their purpose. Like she was always this close to falling apart, and your love might be the thing that saved her. But it was all an act. And Mariah wasn't the only one. After that call, more families started reaching out. My mom's sister Aunt Helen said she once caught Mom crying in the bathroom at Thanksgiving. Said Mom claimed Dad had cut up her credit cards and monitored her phone calls. Theatrics. Manipulation. None of it real. But it was so detailed, so vivid, that people believed it. Because why would a woman make up something like that? And I realized that's what made it all so dangerous. My mother wasn't just a liar, she was a skilled storyteller. She didn't just twist facts. She rewrote history and convinced everyone it had always been that way. I started replaying my childhood in my head. The missed birthdays. The screaming matches she had with Dad behind closed doors. The weird way she'd suddenly be all over affectionate when guests were around. The way she'd guilt me for spending time with friends. The nights she'd cry and say I didn't love her enough if I didn't stay in. It hit me hard. She'd been manipulating me my whole life. But I didn't want to hate her. I couldn't hate her. She was still my mom. The woman who bandaged my knees. Who made pancakes in funny shapes. Who sang off-key in the car. I clung to those pieces like driftwood, floating in a sea of betrayal. Until she came back. Not to me. Not to Dad. Not even to her siblings. She came back online. I was scrolling Instagram one night when I saw it. A brand new account with a familiar face. Username at HealingMomTruths. The bio? Sparkle survivor. Empath. Truth teller. Divorced but not defeated. Sparkles. My heart dropped into my stomach. I clicked the first post. A selfie of her in a cafe, captioned, "People will try to silence your story because it makes them uncomfortable. Tell it anyway. Survivor, truth seeker, toxic family." I felt sick. She was building a brand. Off of this. Every post was a half-truth wrapped in inspirational quotes. Narcissistic partners will turn your own children against you. Leaving is the bravest thing a woman can do. You're not broken, you were just lied to. And then, tucked into the comments, I saw someone write, "You're so strong. Did your daughter cut you off too?" Her reply? She was groomed by her father. I pray for her every day. I had to read it 3 times. Groomed? My father had never even raised his voice to me. He's boring, if anything. The kind of guy who folds laundry with military precision and plays Sudoku before bed. I didn't even know what to feel anymore. Anger? Grief? Fear? Because now it wasn't just lies behind closed doors. She was telling the world I'd been brainwashed, that I was some kind of puppet, and where she was painting herself as a survivor of abuse. It was cruel, but it was also dangerous. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I confronted her, publicly. On one of her posts about escaping toxic marriage, I left a comment. I'm your daughter. You know Dad never laid a hand on you. You were the one cheating. You manipulated everyone. You blame me for your choices. Stop lying. It blew up. She deleted the comment after an hour, but not before dozens of people saw it, screenshotted it, shared it, and messaged me. Some called me brave. Some called me a liar. Some said I was too young to understand abuse. But I didn't care anymore. Because for the first time, I wasn't hiding. I wasn't protecting her image. I wasn't swallowing my truth to make her feel better. I was done. The fallout came fast. She posted a video crying in her car. I never thought my own child would turn on me. This is what abuse looks like. She didn't name me, but everyone knew. And then came the twist I never saw coming. A woman messaged me, someone I'd never met. Her name was Lauren. She said, I know this is weird, but I used to date Todd, the guy your mom had the affair with. I think you should know what really happened between them. I didn't answer at first. I was exhausted, but curiosity got the better of me. She sent screenshots, texts from Todd, old pictures, dates, timelines. And one thing was very clear. My mom wasn't Todd's first affair, or his last. He had a pattern, dating married women, isolating them, making them feel seen, and then using them until they collapsed into chaos. Lauren said, your mom wasn't a victim, but she wasn't the only one being manipulated either. And that shook me, because for all the pain she caused, for all the damage she did, suddenly saw her not just as the villain, but as someone who got played too, someone who got in too deep, who doubled down on a lie because the truth was too humiliating to face. That didn't excuse her, not at all, but it made me pity her in a way I didn't expect. I don't know where she's living now. Last I heard, she moved states, trying to start fresh, rebuild her image, keep telling her story. I blocked her new account. I don't look anymore. I can't, but I still think about her. Sometimes when I pass a certain coffee shop, or when I hear a song she used to hum while vacuuming. I don't hate her. Not fully, but I don't trust her, and I don't want her back in my life. Because healing isn't about pretending someone didn't hurt you. It's about drawing a line, saying, this is what you did, and this is where I stop letting it define me. For weeks, I tried to move on, tried to go to work like everything was normal, tried to laugh at my coworkers' dumb jokes, tried to focus on my thesis proposal about post-trauma family systems which, ironically, now felt like I was dissecting my own life under a microscope. But nothing felt real. I'd walk home past that Thai restaurant Mom used to love and feel a ghost brush past me. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and still expect to hear her in the kitchen heating up tea, like she did when she stayed with me. I started checking my apartment door twice before bed, not because I was scared of strangers, but because I was terrified of waking up and finding her standing outside it again. Then came the podcast. It was Mariah who texted me. Avery, have you heard this? Episode 3, she's talking about you. My fingers trembled as I opened the link. Voices unheard. Episode 3, my daughter chose my abuser. I almost threw up. I listened. Against my better judgment, I listened. Her voice was calm, practiced. A perfect mix of vulnerability and righteousness. She doesn't know any better, she said at one point. She grew up watching him control me. That kind of environment it brainwashes a child. I don't blame her. I blame him. The host, a soft-spoken woman named Jill, murmured comforting affirmations. You're so brave for sharing this. And then came the part that shattered me. I remember standing in the rain, with nothing but 2 garbage bags, and my own daughter looked me in the eyes and told me to leave. Can you imagine that kind of betrayal? She made it sound like I threw her out because I was cold, because I was cruel. She didn't mention the cheating, the screaming, the lies. She didn't mention how she tried to emotionally blackmail me into housing her indefinitely. She painted me as the villain. Again, I sat in my living room, shaking. I must have looked insane, rocking slightly, whispering no, 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 over and over. I didn't know what to do. Do I go public? Record a video? Post my own truth? Do I start a podcast called The Daughter's Side? It all felt ridiculous. I didn't want to become some kind of internet circus act, but staying silent made me feel like she kept winning, like she was dragging my name across the asphalt while I just stood there bleeding. It was Dad who gave me the idea. He called that weekend, just to check in. He didn't mention the podcast. I wasn't sure he even knew, but when I brought it up, his voice went quiet. I heard about it, he said. Mariah sent me a link. I waited for anger, for bitterness, for something, but he just sighed. She's going to keep telling her story however she needs to, he said. But you don't have to let her own yours. That line, you don't have to let her own yours. It echoed in me like a bell. So I started writing. Not to post, not to prove anything, just for me. I wrote everything down. Every memory, every twist, every manipulation, every quiet red flag I'd ignored growing up. I wrote until my fingers cramped and my laptop battery died. I didn't hold back. And in the middle of it all, somewhere around page 30, I remembered something I hadn't thought about in years. I was 13. Mom had picked me up from a sleepover, and I was crying in the car because the other girls had ganged up on me for being too quiet. I remember sobbing, telling her how they said I was weird. She didn't console me. She didn't hug me or say, "You're perfect the way you are." She said, "Well, maybe if you didn't act like a little freak, they wouldn't treat you like one." And I laughed at the memory, laughed while crying, because how had I forgotten that? How had I buried so much to protect her image? That's when I made a decision. I wasn't going to post a call-out or try to destroy her narrative online. I wasn't going to shout louder. I was going to write the whole story, my version, with my name, with facts, with heart, a memoir. I told Dad first. He was quiet, but then he said, "If it helps you breathe easier, do it." Then I told Mariah. She cried, said she'd help, said she'd give me old texts, emails, anything I needed. The title came to me instantly. The Other Side of the Story. Writing it was like bleeding on the page. I wrote about how she used to fake crying to guilt Dad into canceling fishing trips. About how she once told me, at 16, that she regretted having me because I tied her down. About how she gaslit me into thinking Dad was boring and emotionally unavailable when in reality, he was just stable. I wrote about the motel receipts. The awkward family dinners where Todd would sit across from Dad and smile like nothing was happening. And I wrote about the night she came to my door, holding trash bags, calling herself homeless because of me. When I finished the first draft, it was 72,000 words. I cried for a full hour. And for the first time in months, I slept through the night. But it wasn't over. About a month later, I got an email from a name I didn't recognize, Claire. The subject line read, "You don't know me, but I knew your mom." Against my better judgment, I opened it. It said, "Hi Avery. I don't want to intrude, but I listened to your mom's podcast and recognized her voice. I worked with her years ago at a marketing firm in DC. I just want you to know I believe you. She told me once that lying is just good storytelling." It stuck with me. She manipulated a lot of people, including me. I sat there, stunned. Someone I'd never met had seen through her too. It was both horrifying and comforting. I replied. We talked. She shared stories. And each one added another thread to the web my mother had spun across decades, in every city, in every job. I realized something. My mom was consistent. She always had a story. Always a new victim, a new enemy, a new crisis that justified her behavior. But what changed was me. I wasn't in her story anymore. I wasn't a prop or a pawn. I wasn't the doting daughter who cleaned up her messes. I was the one who walked off stage. The memoir isn't out yet. I'm still editing. Still adding memories as they come back, like pieces of a puzzle I didn't know was missing corners. But it's real, and it's mine. I don't expect it to change her, or redeem anything, or even get published. But it's the first thing in years that feels like freedom. I didn't write the book to get revenge. I wrote it because I was done choking on things I wasn't allowed to say. Because I was tired of everyone believing the cleaned-up, sanitized version of her that she broadcast into the world. Because the real Stormy story deserved space too. Still, when I got the email from a small independent publisher 6 weeks later, I almost deleted it out of fear. The subject line said, "We read your manuscript." Just that. No context. No emoji. No warm, fuzzy language. My stomach twisted as I clicked it open. Inside was a short paragraph. "Avery, thank you for trusting us with this. Your voice is honest and devastating and clear. We would like to talk about publishing your memoir. It will not be easy, but it will matter. I burst into tears at my kitchen table, and not the cathartic, movie-style tears that fall gently down your cheeks. No, these were ugly, shoulder-shaking, snot-filled sobs, the kind that come from a place deeper than words. It wasn't about being published. It was about finally feeling seen. I called my dad first. He didn't say mush rarely does, but his voice cracked when he said, "You deserve this, kiddo." The publishing process took months. There were legal reviews, redacted names, careful phrasing. At one point, they asked me if I wanted to publish under a pseudonym to protect myself. But I said no, because I wasn't hiding anymore. I knew Mom would find out eventually, and I was right. The week the advance reader copies were mailed out, she messaged me. Not an email, not a call, a DM on an old social media account I barely checked anymore. It said, "So this is how you repay me? By airing out my darkest moments to strangers? You've always been selfish, just like your father." There was no apology, no acknowledgement, just that same, familiar deflection. I didn't answer. I didn't even screenshot it, because I knew responding would drag me back into her game, and I wasn't playing anymore. The book launched quietly. No flashy press tour, no viral TikTok campaign, just a soft cover and a raw story and a few brave indie bookstores willing to stock it. But word traveled. People started emailing me. Strangers, other daughters, sons, women in their 50s, men in their 30s, people who had been gaslit by someone they loved and were still untangling themselves from the wreckage. They said things like, "I thought I was crazy until I read this. You helped me find the words for something I could never explain. Thank you for making me feel less alone." One message came from a high school teacher who used to know my mom. She said, she was charming, always brought muffins to staff meetings. I would have never guessed. That one hit hardest, because it reminded me how much of Mom's life was performative. How many people still believed in the version of her that only ever existed in public. But I wasn't angry anymore, just tired. Tired in the way that comes after a storm, when you've survived the winds, and now all that's left is the rebuilding. Dad came to my first book event. It was at a small indie store in Center City. Maybe 30 people in the audience. I was so nervous my knees literally knocked together. But he sat in the front row, arms folded across his chest, wearing that awful houndstooth jacket he saves for important days. During the Q&A, someone asked me, "What would you say to your mom if she were here tonight?" The room went quiet. Even the barista stopped making lattes. I took a breath. I'd tell her I wish things had been different. I wish she'd been honest. I wish she'd gotten help instead of hiding behind lies. I wish she could have let me love her without making me feel responsible for her pain. I paused, and I'd tell her that I still love her. But I also love myself now, and that means keeping her out of my life. A few people teared up. A woman in the back started clapping before anyone else. And Dad, he just nodded, like he already knew every word before I said it. Months passed. The book sold better than expected. Nothing wild, no bestseller lists, but enough to know people were reading it. Enough to pay off my student loans. Enough to make me feel like I hadn't just screamed into a void. And then one day, while walking home from class, I saw her. It was a chilly October evening. I was crossing Pine Street when a woman stepped out of a CVS, bundled in a long brown coat. Her hair was longer, grayer. Her face thinner. But I knew her. Our eyes met. Just for a second. She stopped. I froze. She didn't smile. Didn't wave. Didn't even frown. She just looked at me. And then she turned and walked away. No drama. No scene. No confrontation. Just distance. And I stood there on the corner, heart pounding, hands shaking, and realized something. I felt nothing. Not rage. Not grief. Not fear. Just the kind of hollow ache that comes with finality. Because I knew deep in my gut that was the last time I'd ever see her. And weirdly, that was okay. People always talk about closure like it's some neat little bow at the end of a messy story. Like one day you'll get the apology, the reckoning, the tearful reunion that fixes everything. But sometimes closure is just silence. Sometimes it's a woman walking away from you on a city sidewalk while the leaves fall quietly around you. And sometimes that's enough. It's been over a year now since I finished the book. Dad's dating again. A nice woman named Carla who bakes when she's nervous and has the loudest laugh I've ever heard. He looks lighter, not younger, Exactly, but free in a way I've never seen before. Mariah's in therapy. We talk once a week. She says she's started journaling again and has gone no contact with her mom too. It's weird, she told me last week. Feels like we're orphans with living parents. And me? I'm still writing. Not just about her. About other things. Quiet things. Hopeful things. I volunteer now at a shelter for women who are actually homeless who didn't get there through lies or manipulation, but through systems that failed them. I bring tea. I listen. I don't center myself. Because that's the other thing I've learned. Telling your story is powerful, but it's not the end. It's the beginning. Of accountability. Of compassion. Of doing better. Sometimes people ask me if I'd ever talk to my mom again. I don't say no, but I don't say yes either. Because love isn't always a tether. Sometimes it's a line in the sand. And forgiveness? It's not a reunion. It's a release. So I walk forward now. Not to erase the past, but to carry the truth of it with me honestly, openly, and without shame. My name is Avery. My mother said she was homeless because of me. But the truth? She lost her home the day she started treating love like a weapon. And I lost my fear the day I stopped letting her story define mine.